few more hours for the single malts and the blended. But I just love Professor Pant. I wish he was there when I was a kid, and he was a greater influence to my parents who wanted me to study mathematics, physics and chemistry and get into IIT. And I landed up with 17 marks in mathematics. So even in those days IIT Kanpur was very well known. So even the train wouldn't stop at Kanpur, the one which I was boarding. So forget getting anywhere nearer IIT Kanpur. Talking about S for snakes, I mean, I think we're talking about an absolutely new generation, and again, I like Professor Pant's vocabulary who talks about A for apps and B for blackberries, and probably spectrum for snakes. And then we talk about spectrum Raja thereafter. So with all of this, I think, what is it that we are reaching to? And as Dr. Rajiv Tandon yesterday mentioned, that what we're talking about, we're basically trying to address and match it to a brand new generation, which is a digital native, and we are all migrants. So no matter how much of technology we understand, we're basically still a little further behind. And yesterday I had to leave the session a little early to go and pick up my son from the hostel because he decided to come home over the weekend. He's doing his IGCSE and therefore he had some pre-boards and things like that. And I said, but what brings you home? You got your exams. He says, no, all of that happened. And didn't you know? I said, no, but I received a timetable which talked about you got something on Monday. He says, no, but why? I said, but I sent you that email. He says, no, but I updated it. I said, but I didn't either receive an email nor an SMS. I mean, where did you update? No, Dad, I mean, your problem is that you are dependent on the email. You should have looked up on my Facebook. Now, I call myself fairly technology savvy, fairly happy with technologies and gizmos around me, and I can spend hours with it. So after that, there was a pause. In fact, I was thinking that I'd probably take my son for a major ride and give him some gyan on the way, that, well, why holiday and why not studies and all of that. It's a Friday, I mean, it's a 45-minute journey without roadblocks, which was about an hour and a half, and 45 minutes of that I decided to remain quiet. Until he said, well, have you got this new game on this tab, and have you got your new game on that? And I quickly took out my new Galaxy tab and I gave it to him. I said, let's have some method of interacting again. Until he started talking about some game theory. And I said, well, I think this is physics. So he says, I don't study physics, but then this is basic knowledge. So coming back to the same thing, and what Professor Pant was saying, it's all about learning, it's about knowledge. It's no more about physics, chemistry, and mathematics. And I'm very happy with all of that. I mean, there is no need for a physics. There is no need for a mathematics. I think there is need to have knowledge. If we have knowledge, we are in order. Whether this knowledge comes through physics or chemistry or Facebook or Twitter, it's absolutely fine. So along with that introduction, I probably let my atoms run and molecules start doing some work. What I'm trying to talk about is putting together a whole lot of talks, and especially this new thing that we are all talking about, social media. And I just gave you this little story of what happened with me yesterday. And normally I can talk for hours because I come from a lawyer background. My father was a lawyer and my mother was a teacher, so put together I can speak.
But we want you to be brief.
Brief. No, but I was talking about my son putting me to rest yesterday. So with the brief on, we'll move on and talk about that. What I'm basically talking about is, we're faced with some questions, and of course, as the topic says, we're talking about blended learning. If blended learning is the solution, or if that is the answer that we are all talking about, whether it is through social media, or taking these examples of imageries and pictorial stuff, or interactive walls and all of that, then what is the problem? And if blended learning is the answer, then what's the question? And then, if blended learning is what we are doing, what is in aid of? And why are we talking about it? I think inclusive education is the issue. How can we achieve inclusive education? is the question. And education for all is what we are trying to do all of this. Whether we look at these examples of going to the villages or to small townships, or we're talking about a remote school, or we're talking about a high-tech, top-of-the-line school, or whatever. So these are some kind of key questions and answers that we are faced with. And what we are wanting to talk about is, I am an education change maker. I mean, that's the kind of badge that we are all looking at. The people who are in the field of education, the people who are educators, must be able to wear that badge. So what is the challenge? I think everything was simple in the very first slide. Professor Pant asked me to be brief, so here we are. But we are then faced with some challenges. The challenge of numbers, we have the challenge of quality, and we also have challenge of access. What used to happen is something similar, but above all, what we are currently faced with is the challenge of a mindset. Our mindset is still that my son must study physics, chemistry, mathematics and get into IIT, irrespective. Probably the newer age parents are talking about MBA. Every child must be an MBA. And if you can be a IIT plus MBA, you are the best, ultimate. That mindset is still not changing. And maybe, as Dr. Rajiv Tandon said, with the new digital native generation, this might change. But unfortunately, the parents of this digital native son of mine whom I spoke about earlier, I still probably suffer with a little bit of a mindset. Because I still feel that he should do a management from somewhere and then do. I have really not understood anything. And the more I get into such kind of gatherings, the more I talk to Professor Pant, because I get opportunities to talk to him quite a lot, I absolutely try and get a little more confused by the hour. So, with this mindset, I think we are all still facing this challenge. What used to happen in a traditional environment, and I think somewhere in my mind when I'm driving back home, not wanting to hit any BMWs to get any marks, because BMWs in Delhi are a not so well-known brand because they are only known for hating people. We have at least 4 cases of BMWs in India. So trying to avoid all the BMWs on the road, what used to happen was admit some naturally bright students, get a whole lot of naturally good teachers or faculties, give them a nice campus, new facilities, and education will happen, no problem. I'm not sure whether I should be or whether I'm able to, but then maybe the IITs, the IIMs, they had the same model. I have no clue. As I told you, when I boarded the train to get off to IIT Kanpur, but the train didn't stop. With 17 marks in mathematics, there was no way the train would stop there. It just passed it. And instead, it kind of deboarded me at Delhi. So that's the reason I came here. I come from a state in Uttar Pradesh at a place called Allahabad there. Now all of this used to happen, and I think this used to happen. But the question is, it's not replicable. How much can we do? It's not scalable. How many millions of students or trainers or villagers can you actually talk about? It's not sustainable. You can't sustain a model like that. It's extremely difficult to sustain that model. So what are we talking about? What is the solution? We left with a technology-empowered solution. Whatever name we want to give it, call it blended learning, call it teaching by social media, as Professor Pant was talking about yesterday, oh my God, an MBA through the Facebook. Do whatever. But that is that we're talking about. And that's what a typical environment is, from a black and white village school, moving on to another school with a technology or an ICT-enabled thing, maybe a video conference-based classroom. That's the way our lives are moving. That's the way our schools are moving. And that's what blending or creating an environment which is a blended learning environment to me is all about. I don't think so we still leave this question, but why blend? But because I put it on the slide and Professor Pant is out, I could take for a few more minutes. You know, we must blend because it gives you the best of traditional training and the best of technology on the other side. We need to blend because it gives you effective classroom spend. I mean, what is it that we do in a blended environment? You give a whole lot of pre-course reading, as people say, to the students that's available. So when a student comes into a physical classroom or a face-to-face classroom of 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it is, you are actually able to use that time more effectively, more interactively, and we are able to really get learning from the experts, from the faculty that they are required for. We don't need plasma teachers. That's not required. We just don't want the teachers to walk in and keep on writing on the blackboard something that they've been writing for 30 years. I think over lunch, I was talking to Mr. Manoj Pant, and he talked about, we're discussing about his training, and he said, what was it? I don't know, Manojji, if I have got it right. Show me, let me, and tell me, show me, let me. Now, that is what we need to get in the classrooms. If we are able to do that, we are able to engage learners. Span of attention, there isn't any span of attention. I wouldn't stay in a classroom for more than 15 minutes if it doesn't start talking or kind of responding to something which is going in my mind. How can we expect children who've got so much distraction all around? Content delivery, if we start using multimedia and embed what Deepti mentioned, pictorial stuff, imagery, and a whole lot of examples that Atul mentioned yesterday, the whole life, the whole delivery, it becomes rich. Children, students will probably like it. Anytime, anywhere access. Scalable. It's just technology. And I think there's a research of last year in Penn State said that 93% of higher education learning is already using a blended learning environment. So these are reasons enough for us to believe that if those were the questions that we were talking about, these are enough reasons to blend. What do we blend? Everybody is talking blend, let's blend. Whiskey blending we all understand. But what do we blend in education? Let's blend teaching activities. Let us make a teaching classroom, not a class, but a teaching event. I've spent 15 years of my time in event management before I got into education, or really got hooked into education. But if we can make a classroom of 45 minutes into a teaching event, I think our problem is solved. If we can blend the learning process, which is interactive and engaging, we talked about giving them pre-reading, getting into the class which is more interactive, provide content which is delivered in a multimedia-rich environment. Let's blend support. Let's move from eye contact to e-contact. Whether it is threaded discussions, whether it is chat, whether it is video chats or whatever, let's kind of do that. It's extremely important that while all of this is moving towards for the students, our teachers, our trainers, they are also continuously upgraded. They also are in a position to continuously upgrade their skills. Otherwise, in this divide of native, we will be left out. So we need to have a whole range of continuous professional development programs which are available online collaborative activities, and meet once in a while. Because I also manage to run a business, the point of finance becomes very important. So with all of this, where does the money come from? So it's important that finance is blended. And again, as we were talking with Manoj Pant, he was talking about this Galaxy Tap, and in his example yesterday, he was talking about move through a pantaloon showroom, tap your thing, your money is gone. I just loved it. I wish everybody on the road is just moving and enrolling for some of my English language examinations. Cambridge would love it. So I think we're not talking about somehow or the other integrating this finance, this process of tap and get the money, digital wallet, all of that. So that's what is required in an operational term, because I am not an educator, I am more of an operations person. My job is to make various things happen, and if this is education, my job is to make education happen.